مساء الخير. والله لساكم هون يا جماعة، يعني أنا مستغرب. So, do you want to be simply a statistic in this global arena we live in, or do you want to stand out? Stand out. I'm pretty sure most of you here are part of the 64 million plus people in the Middle East and North Africa, the MENA region, that are connected to the internet in some sort of fashion. You're probably one of the 1.3 million on Facebook, or 8,000 or so by my best estimates on Twitter from Jordan alone. I believe that our competitiveness, our relevancy in the global world that we live in, the information world that we live in, depends on it. It's as simple as that. Social media has become part of our life, part of our businesses, and part of our economy, and much, much more. There is no ignoring social media anymore, not unless you want to stubbornly cling to a past that's fast leaving you behind. And lastly, businesses, organizations, and individuals are clamoring to establish Facebook pages, LinkedIn, and Twitter profiles at a frantic rate, trying to stay relevant in the fast-moving method of communication that we find ourselves in. I was born here in Jordan. I actually went to the Bishop's High School, Madrasat al-Mutran. I'm happy to say that I met my 2 classmates I'm proud of, among many. I think we had one of the best classes out of that school. And at the age of 17, I boarded a plane and I headed west, some 12,000 kilometers from here, to a place called Fresno, California, in the Central Valley of the state of California in the USA. Home of Fresno State, where I went to school. I studied civil engineering, and later on ended up in a field I never dreamt I would be in. It's in the building codes and construction arena. Thank you. And in a blink of an eye, 30 years zoomed by, just like that. So this is, to me, a very exciting event to be at. I've spoken at different conferences. This one means so much more. It's a homecoming in a way to me. Passion, you've heard it today, used a number of times. It's a word that's sometimes overused and abused, I think, but it's a powerful word, and I have to use it because I believe in it. Every one of us here has a passion of sorts. Many of us have lots of passions. It could be a betterment of self or country, like many of you are doing, or the region, or maybe a product or a service that you've invented or floating in your mind, and you're ready to take it to the next level and share it with the rest of the world. Whatever it is, the chances are it's represented by you, somebody in here today. My passion is simple. It was people. For the longest time, I remember, it was dealing with people, engaging with people, knowing about people. The more culturally diverse, I was more intrigued. I was fascinated by that for the longest time. And I pursued that as the best of my ability. I also sought knowledge and in a number of topics that fascinated me beyond the engineering, beyond the building codes. In 2007, 2008, I discovered something now we know as social media. It was a revelation of sorts, because up to that point, I was, as a civil engineer, you would think, why would I be dabbling with social media? But for the longest time, since the early 90s, I figured out that this internet thing that was still new to us back then was the key for many businesses, and especially for my business in engineering and building codes, to be on a platform where we exchange information and give us a cutting edge, especially for smaller companies. So I invested time and effort in resources and web-based software dealing with the building and construction code. We had a building code discussion group by then, that was used throughout the United States by architects, engineers, and code officials. Over 23,000 people were using it in 2007, and a big percentage internationally also. But I still didn't see how social media would fit in any of that. Yes, I saw people talking and they were socializing, but the business side was not clear for me at first. So I started doing what we always do. We started learning how this thing works. You watch. Not many in my business were doing anything at that point, so you had to chart your own path. You learn how the system works, and then you finally dive in, you start participating, and what you do is I started answering questions in my specialty in the building codes, and putting news article or retweeting, reposting what others were talking about. And what I was doing later on, I found out I was establishing a presence on the internet, a reputation, if you will. More importantly, I was establishing friendship, building bridges of friendship with a number of people located all over the world. In no time, I was talking to engineers and specialists that in a lifetime I would not come across with on 6 continents. And after a while, I ventured even more. I was interested in a lot of topics beyond engineering and building codes, which can be boring after a while if that's all you talk about. I started talking about from geopolitical issues to commodities, to the price of gold, to what's going on in China, which I was fascinated by, to social media, which was, I was big into that and very fascinated with it. At that point, the level of engagement increased dramatically, and I was happy. I was talking to people on literally 12 different time zones, on 6 continents, over 100 countries. It was not possible, and eventually we were talking about issues that related to the business. You start the relationship, you become friends with them, and eventually they start trusting you, and the next level, you take it to the next level, you collaborate on a project. I was getting tips and collaboration efforts with engineering companies that in a lifetime you would not have been able to do before. Come on, Hassan, help me out. Okay. Let me give you an example of the power of social media. Last September 2010, I was invited to speak at TEDx Canton in the city of Guangzhou in south of China. The message that I spoke about, there's Chinese in here. The message was an engineer's adventure across the oceans. And in my message, one of the first topics I talked about was my country of birth, Jordan. I was proud of it, and I talked about my experience growing in Jordan and how I made the transition of going to the United States and making it my second home. And I also introduced to them a character by the name of Abu Ahmed, the Peanut Man. Many of you in here should remember him. He was, and you see his picture right there, he was a fixture in the downtown area in Amman. He was in front of the gold market. Anybody remember him? Of course. Allah yarhamu. As a youngster, working for my dad in summer vacations, he was in the downtown area near the Al-Husseini Mosque. I would work there, and it was a ritual for me to go by Abu Ahmed. I could smell the peanuts to this day from hundreds of meters away. I would go there, give him, I think, the 5 piastres, whatever it is, and we exchange in small talk. So he left a time and a memory in my memory banks for the longest time. I didn't know how long until last year. I'm reading the local newspaper, the Jordan Times, on the internet, like I always did, because I keep track of what's going on here in my country of birth. And I see the picture and the title, and I knew, my heart sank. I immediately knew what happened. It was his Abu Ahmed, and right above it, it says, cultural icon passes away. My heart sank, I got chills, and in a millisecond, I was transported 30 years back to a time and a place that I remembered. I could smell those peanuts, I remember the exchanges, and a lot of more memories dealing with back home, which you always miss when you're away from it. And I did what I do when I feel strongly about something. I wrote about it. I had a blog, and I went and I posted my experience with Abu Ahmed. and wrote about it. And I was on Twitter by then, and I posted a link on Twitter to the blog. What happened next was funny. Her Majesty Queen Rania retweeted that post or reposted that Twitter post. And she went on to say that, yes, I remember Abu Ahmad, bless his heart, he was indeed a cultural icon. Now, many of you know that the Queen has a large following, some 1.4 million people on Twitter. So you could imagine what happened next. Between the blog and my Twitter post and the reposting by the Queen, the message went viral. Within hours, I was already being followed and friends with thousands of people all over the world, and within hours, I started getting comments and emails from people from all over the world, from China, from India, from Pakistan, from the Middle East, and from the US, of people that were expressing their feelings of how they were touched by the story of Abu Ahmad, how they were remembering an uncle or a father figure in their lives, and they were missing them. They passed away. Some people were, like me, away from their home where they were born, from their country of birth, and this brought memories to them, and they were flashing. I could hear the tears in their emails and their postings. At that point, I realized how powerful this platform is, the social media, that sometimes we take for granted. That it's not just for what I eat and what I've been, that you can really penetrate, reach places you would have never dreamt of reaching, and touching people that you would never been able to do in a powerful, powerful way. I had a new respect for this tool that I also took for granted from that point on. They also heard me talk about how from Fresno, California, we were reaching literally over 100 countries with the products and services that we've developed over the years. That was not possible before. The products that were online, they were used, and some of them were, most of them were for free, but we had some products that we monetized. So that was, when people ask me, you know, do you have personal experience with social media and making money of it? Sure I do. It works, it happens. The friendships and that was established at this point in time, for me personally, stretch out to over 100 countries on 6 continents. And that is, you know, usually when you go on social media, the goal is, what are we doing? We're trying to engage, we're trying to get our messages through, we're trying to have the people hear our causes or things that we are passionate about, or maybe do business with. So that's the whole goal. And that's what we use it for. All along, and in the meantime, my eyes, my ears, my heart, in a way, was back home where I was born. This social media, as of late, was giving me the pulse of the country by the, especially for me, Twitter users in Jordan. I wish there is more of you. But everything that would happen here, I would hear it and listen to it in real time. A lot of times, more than most of you would tell each other, because you talk about it, and I was listening. So you were giving me a glimpse of the country that I was aching for, and I was eating it up. It was the next best thing as being there. Not quite. There are certain things that even the powerful social media cannot replicate or do justice. This is one of them. This is one of them. No matter what I tried, you have to come here to experience Mensa. There's no other explanations that I can give you. As an engineer, I'm interested in statistics in general and demographics. But lately, I was also interested in what happens in Jordan, in the MENA area. So I made it a passion of mine because I don't have nothing better to do. So I'm running a company, but it's a disease and I can't get it out of my system. So I started looking into the statistics because I'm interested in what happens here. I believe that the level of engagement that we have on the social platform as one, and the penetration rates on the internet is a key component for us to stay competitive and engage with the rest of the world. It's nice to be engaged with friends and local and so forth, but it comes to a point where we need to maybe grow up and go to the next level and engage with the region and possibly to different continents and countries, because that's what we all are seeking for. That's where the competitiveness is coming. So I started looking at this a little closer. And I was fascinated with the numbers. This happens to be the rates of penetrations of the MENA region countries to the best of my abilities at this time. You find out if you go on the internet, there's always times where you see conflicting or outdated information. But for this, I would take it that this would be pretty accurate at this point in time, at least till through last year. 2 countries right off the bat you see in Bahrain and United Emirates are kind of off the charts in the rates of penetrations, the number of users of those countries that are on the internet in one fashion or another. There's 70+% internet penetrations, making them one of the two, in the top of the countries in the world in the rates of penetration. Then you see the other countries in the region. Jordan, we stand around 27% penetration, so 27% of the population in Jordan, give or take, about 1.7+ million people are on the internet. It becomes a big issue because we need higher numbers, because the more involved we are, the more competitive, the more we are part of the world and taking a piece of the action. This still represents a big increase for the last 10 years, 27%. We came about 1,200% increase in the rate of penetration since 2000 to 2010. So it's a huge increase, yet it leaves a lot for growth to take place. I've read some statistics in the local paper last year that the rate was closer to 38%. I wasn't able to verify that number. But they also talked about a goal of getting to a 50% penetration rate in Jordan by the end of 2011. I don't think we're there yet. But it's a goal, and I think we have to get those numbers up. There are obstacles, there are challenges for individuals, for the region, for the country. But to be competitive and to get that, I think we must. You see the MENA region area as a general, we're at about 28% penetration for the MENA region in general. The rest of the world, in the aggregate, is about 25%. The MENA region still grew by 1,800% in the last 10 years, a huge amount of increase. There's over 64 million internet users in the MENA region, expected to go over 80 million in a couple of years. So we're getting there. We're taking our place in the big picture. Facebook, everybody uses Facebook, almost everybody. Social media, the big gorilla in social media, 600 million plus users. Just to give you another idea, with 20% penetration in Jordan, around 1.3+ million. Now, that doesn't mean everybody is active and doing something with that. This is the total accounts, so we don't know exactly how much are dormant and how much are active accounts, or what they're doing exactly. But let's just give us a gauge where we are. The world is getting smaller. You've heard it, it's true. This is just to give you a glimpse of the countries and the internet users. I was in China. For some reason, I'm fascinated by China and the growth they have. I was there, and China is still the big dog with the number of users on the internet. At this point, I think this shows 360. There's over 420 million internet users in China alone. To give you an idea, the entire Arab world is 350 to 360 million people. So in China, there's more users on the internet than the entire Arab world, expected to go over 500 million in 2015. So it's a huge amount, but these are, everybody's competitive. These are where we are going with these things, so might as well know it and do something about it. All those charts, I have charts and demographics available, and you can, if you follow me on that, you'll be able, if you're interested, you can download all that information for yourself. Let me leave you with this. I'm the last one, I can get a minute. I need to tell you something. The concept of Jordan, the word Jordan, some of you might take it for granted when you live here. Let me tell you, when you're away from the country of Jordan, there's a magnetism that draws you back. I cannot describe it, but I'm leaving on Wednesday, so you're gonna hear it. Take it as it is. It's like a big magnet. That's all I can describe Jordan. No matter how many decades you're away, it pulls you back. And last night I was thinking, and I was in the bathroom crying like a kid, thinking how Jordan is important to us. It's like in your blood. So no matter how much you leave it, it comes back. So be proud. I will do my part from 12,000 miles away to support you. I am so excited about the new generation. Keep up what you're doing. Let your voices be heard in this world. And I'm proud of you. God bless you. Thank you so much. Shukran.